to shoot.
Okay, good morning from Pipers'Persuasion, and we have something different for you today. We're going to talk about the BB, the Boys Brigade, and it's just a general history in the archives at the Mitchell Library, and we're taking advantage of the fact that this exhibition's on just now. Robert Wallace, who's rather famous in piping circles, is also an old BB guy. And when we move on from the history of the BB in general, I'm going to try and cover with Robert the history or the stories about 214 BB Boys Brigade pipe band, and I think it was White Inch, Robert. Yeah, and well, we'll get more details on that. It was an iconic band. You talked about the Port Glasgow, first Port Glasgow, Knightswood Juveniles, but the 214 BB pipe band on its day were unbeatable. So, listen, my prattling on here, and I'm going to hand you over to Robert, and we're just going to take it from there. Meanwhile, as usual, just sit back and enjoy. BB.
Well, we're here at the Mitchell Theatre Archive Department, and very busy place. For the last 2 weeks I've been running this exhibition on the Boys Brigade. But any BB boy coming here right away would see a mistake the archivists rather have made, and I'm sure those of you who've been in the Boys Brigade will spot it right away. And it is, of course, the spelling of the word steadfast, because sure and steadfast is the motto of the BB, but it's never spelt with an A in the stead. It's S-T-E-D-F-A-S-T, sure and steadfast. But that's just a minor point to satisfy my pedantic outlook on things. But
let's go in and see what's happening.
We're now going to go inside and have a wee look at some of the exhibits. So I don't suppose it's widely known that the Boys Brigade is the first uniformed youth organisation in the world. And I'm looking at the notice here. It was founded in Glasgow, in the West End of Glasgow, in 1883. And so it predates the Boy Scouts, I would imagine by about 20 years or so, Baden-Powell's Scouts. And it was a Church of Scotland organisation. But there are Jewish Boys Brigade companies, and I don't know quite what the religious background is today, but I'm sure it hasn't deviated much from the founder, Sir William Smith's vision of what the company should be. So if we just come down here, we'll see some great old photographs of the first Glasgow Boys Brigade that he founded, and we also see a register of the actual logbook, as it were, of the officers, some of the boys from the first Glasgow company. So William Smith's there, right at the top of the left-hand page. He was born in 1854, and Bicentenary was held in 1954 to celebrate 100 years since his birth. And down here you'll see birthplace of the Boys Brigade, where the first Glasgow company met. And Sir William Smith, I believe, lived nearby, just off Great Western Road in Glasgow. Those of you who know Glasgow will know what we're talking about.
So what's this register here, Robert?
I'll just get my glasses and have a look.
It seems to have various names and addresses, and page 4 marked Heavy Boys, and I take it as just members.
Well, the sad thing is, if you look over to the right here, see killed in action in Gallipoli, killed in action in France. So these are 3 unfortunate BB boys who've who've died, just very young men. They've died there at age, they've joined the Boys Brigade age 12, 13, 13 and 13.
That's Westwater down to
Yes.
Donald Westwater,
To
Robert
James
Henry.
Smith. And they've joined the Boys Brigade in 1913, 1911, 1912 for the last two, aged 12, 13, 13 and 13. And what, 5, 6 years later, poor
Westwater,
poor boys.
Henry, Smith, Ross.
Aye, the poor boys are dead. Tragic.
Yep.
So there we are, and moving on now to the next display.
We've got a display here.
And we can see here a biography of Sir William Smith on the left hand page. You see him photographed by F.P. Gibbon, author of Lawrence of the Punjab. So there we go.
What is this book, do you think?
It's a biography of Sir William Smith.
Okay, yeah.
So, and there's the details of his life. He was born near Thurso, came to Glasgow in 1868 after the death of his father. He lived with his uncle, who was an evangelical member of the Free Church of Scotland. And William joined the church and became a Sunday school teacher. So he obviously had boys in his care in the first Lancashire Rifle Volunteers, it says here. It must have been from that he got an idea of forming his organisation.
What's this
Boys
extract
Brigade.
of entry here?
This is an extract of entry of Sir William Smith's birth in 1854. And Caithness, parish of Thurso in the county of Caithness.
Kind of far away from Glasgow, eh?
And there you see the Queen Victoria's stamp at the bottom.
And it's the old Glasgow City Archives.
Yeah. So lots of stuff here about the centenary, the founder's centenary from 1954, when all sorts of events were held to commemorate the birth of Sir William Smith. There's one there, St Andrew's Halls. A lot of people will remember that, and
Before it got burnt down.
the terrible night. It got
It's a boxing exhibition, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It wasn't. It was
too
Tuesday
young.
night.
I'm a lot younger than you, Alan.
Well, I used to come to dancing here, and the jazz band and general dancing in the big hall, and then they dropped a cigarette or something and a boxing thing, and the whole thing burnt down, and I lost my dancing venue.
Well, it was famous for its acoustic, the St Andrew's Halls, and musicians will tell you that. Well, maybe not. There'll not be many of them alive now, but musicians from that era would all speak very highly of the St Andrew's Halls.
Great jazz musicians as well.
So the Jubilee, let me work that one out. That must have been the 50 years, of course it was, And a huge big, look at the picture here. Now I think that must be Kelvin Grove Park. It's done with some huge big wide angle lens, 1933. Just look at the crowds and look at
Fantastic
the boys.
crowds,
Look at the boys all lined up down there. Incredible. And of course, of a great interest to us will be the massed pipers, because in these days it would be bugle bands or pipe bands in Scotland, and you could see row upon row of pipers all trained in the BB. Many hundreds, thousands of boys learned their bagpiping thanks to the BB, and I'm one of them.
Well, touch on that in a moment or two.
So you can see these very sort of, I don't know if it's Art Deco you describe them as, I don't know, that's probably wrong, but these posters, all that kind of design stuff from the 30s.
That was the sort of colours they used, wasn't it?
The fonts that they use and the way I don't know where that came from. No doubt somebody who's into design and graphics would be able to explain that to us. But you can see here the Jubilee celebrations and the map. And where it was all going to take place,
Kelvin
in the
Grove
West
Park.
End of Glasgow. Presumably it would be, well, it would definitely, certainly be apposite that it was held in the West End of Glasgow, given the proximity of Sir William Smith's
He was a West Ender.
birthplace, as opposed to having it, say, Glasgow Green or Bellehouston Park, which pipe band people will know from the Worlds. And that's this photograph. This was the uniform when I joined the BB. This pillbox hat, and the staff sergeant was the one with the peak. And before that, of course, we were all in the Boys Brigade, the Life Boys, and that's where you went to. And that's exactly the uniform I had before.
When you young chap up to
Yes,
primary
in the
really.
1960s, before you graduated on to the Boys Brigade itself.
What was the story about the Glengarry for the officers? Do you know?
No idea at all, but probably some military thing, because the BB was always associated with the military.
Just did a lot of marching.
Just before that time, they used to do rifle drill.
Yeah.
Actually, some of the older guys could tell you, but they used to actually use rifles. Real rifles, unloaded, I think, but they used to march with rifles, and they did that kind of work. So it was quite a military thing, your uniform and your marching and all the rest of it. It was very disciplined. But at the time you complained about it, but when you look back now, you realise what a good start in life it gave you, really. It's these things you don't appreciate and we all take for granted. But looking back now to that time, you appreciate what was sort of maybe imbued in your subconscious. You don't realise it at the time. The idea of service and honesty and trying to show some integrity. Not that we always succeed, but we know what we should be aiming for.
But there was a healthy dose of religion in there too.
There was every, you had to attend, you're expected to attend Bible class on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Then there were always church parades. And of course we were all bored out our skulls with that stuff. Spent our time scratching our names in the church pews and getting up to all sorts of carry on, and old Harry Thompson would be thundering away on the pulpit, hadn't a clue what the hell he was on about, But as I say, maybe subliminally, some of that stuff rubbed off on us, and certainly it was an education looking back.
Okay, and moving on to the next case.
Can I just ask a question? Did you say Harry Thompson?
Yes.
Is that from the 214?
Yes.
Right, we're in Australia now, but my husband grew up in Barton Road in Whitehenge, yes.
You're kidding me on.
No, I'm not. 1237 to Barton Road. And he was a member of the 214, and they used to...
that is incredible. What's your name?
I'm Irene McClue, but I was Irene McLaughlin.
And what's your husband's name?
David McClue.
McClue. When was he in the BB?
Now, he's 75 now. So
I'm 66, so that would be 10 years before me.
Before you.
So he'd be in there in the 50s.
What was his name again?
David McClue.
He didn't play the pipes, did he?
He didn't play the pipes, no. But he played the bugle when they went to Victoria, the park.
Up the road.
Yeah.
And then they had their big celebration probably 10 years before you. And so his mum actually sent...
The Jubilee, would that be 1954?
That would probably be right.
Yeah, because I'm just reading that there.
Yes.
So that would be the right era
yeah.
for your husband.
So if you needed that photograph,
That's
I could
extraordinary.
email it to you. Yes.
Well, definitely, if you could, because do you know that the 214X members have in fact got a website?
Never knew it. That
Well,
is incredible.
if you just Google it, you'll find it on the 214X members website, and they'll be absolutely thrilled to find that we've traced a new member to Australia, Mrs. McClure.
Oh, so it's McClue. It's not
McClue.
McClure. Yeah, the role name McClue.
CLUE.
Yes, yes, because I've come.
I hope he wasn't a policeman.
No, he wasn't. It was an electrician. When we.
I think we missed that one.
Well, an electrician.
Right.
Okay.
But he often speaks about.
Is he still alive, your husband?
Yes. And when he went to Australia, then he joined the Boys Brigade there.
Did he?
And yes, and
So he must have gone there very young.
we went there in 1965.
And were you married at that time?
We got just married in Drumchapel St Andrews
Oh,
Church.
Yeah.
And then we just got on the train and went
Incredible.
to
Yeah.
London.
And
And
got the boat from
yeah.
Southampton. Or
I
something?
cried for the first 2 years. I hated it because it was
Whereabouts in Australia? Can I interrupt you?
Melbourne.
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 Beautiful city.
It is. We live out in the Yarra Valley, which is very. We have 2 boys. One's Callum, and the other's Ewan.
Good Scots names.
Good Scots names. And
They don't play pipes, do they?
but no, they don't actually.
Do they go to Scotch College by any chance?
No, because we live away out in the country.
Yeah.
Scotch College would have been probably the best place, but we ended up transferring our church
Membership.
Yes, thank you, church membership to Scots Church in Melbourne,
Right.
which is still going very strong.
Very good.
But then we moved out, and I became Baptist. So
All right.
yes.
Oh, well, we can't talk to you then. Like, BBC,
Everybody
doesn't
makes
allow that.
mistakes in life.
But the Boys Brigade is still going strong, and I was in Girls Brigade.
Right.
So we both, were in uniform. I heard
Yeah,
you talking
yeah,
about the
yeah, the
uniform, and he's still got his hat.
Has
He's still got his. Right.
And you haven't lost your Glasgow accent.
No,
You've still
you
got a
don't.
bit of it there.
You
You've
don't.
got a bit of the old Aussie in
that
there.
that is true. Because 52 years is a long time, but I've come over at the moment because my brother's been diagnosed with cancer and attending the
Beatson.
Beatson
Yeah.
and Gartnavel, but they're doing wonderful, research, etc. And so they've put him on a program that will help him. So I've just come over to.
I hope he was a BB boy as well.
He was actually,
Was he?
because my husband was a lieutenant in that 214, and my brother also was a BB boy in the 96 at Rock Hill.
Right.
So, and my brother also. So
Fantastic.
yes.
Yeah.
So we were always very involved, and as you said, it was good teaching
Oh, yes.
because we had the Bible class and
Yes,
and
of
the
course we had
various
that. Yeah.
the various.
That's an incredible. Here we are at the.
I know. I'm just
the
looking.
overseas BB
Singapore. It's
companies.
amazing
Yeah.
because they haven't got Australia, but Australia is very strong.
Is it?
Oh yes.
That's
We're
good.
still. In fact, the Girls Brigade in my church is just thriving. Right up to
great.
what they call the pioneers from the Little East.
Do you think there's a need for it? A greater need for it
Oh
nowadays?
yes,
Yeah.
Just the discipline and training girls to up to 18 years of age.
Yeah, and just work together and enjoy doing things
Absolutely,
together and a bit
absolutely.
of comradeship, if that's the right word, you know.
It is.
Yeah.
Fellowship and
Fellowship in between.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's we kind of think that young people today all they want is their iPhones and their iPads and Facebook, But I do think there's probably a need for.
Yes, and it's good.
basic
It's good
stuff.
for training when they get older. When they're looking for a job, and so they do a bit of more up to date work as
Yes,
well
of course.
with them. But
Sorry to interrupt you, Irene, but could you tell us a wee bit more about what your husband told you about the BB in Glasgow in his early days? Are there any
Well,
memories that come to mind?
I think the displays, the gymnastics, jumping over the buck and things like that, putting on displays within the Boys Brigade, and when they had their marching through the city and the Jubilee and things like that.
I like that. And does he remember the pipe band in any way?
Oh yes.
Does he?
He does, but he was a bugle boy, but not a
Yeah,
piper.
no.
But his
The band was very famous, obviously. Yeah.
absolutely, and of course they went in competitions,
Oh yes.
not just for the band, but gymnastics and
Oh,
things
right,
like that.
yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Aye.
But very disciplined. Yes.
Is he still the same?
He's still absolutely.
Yeah.
And as I say, he's still got his card, which I can email to you.
Yeah.
His card, his cap, etc., etc.
That's incredible.
Yes.
That is absolutely
So
incredible.
when you mentioned Harry Thompson, we actually came over, I think it was 2011, and we went to find the church, but we discovered it was a nursery or
it's
that.
terrible, I
But they
know.
let us. Oh no, they didn't let us in the second time. It must have been the year 2000, and they let us just come in. And he said, "Oh, we've got to go upstairs." And we went upstairs, and he said, "Harry Thompson used to be there, banging."
Oh God, fire and brimstone!
That's
Oh,
right.
it was
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yes.
Bright red, red face, the white hair, he was thumping that. Oh, no. And I remember one of his really, what would you say, most violent, if that's not the right word, but I can't
Fiery.
think- fiery, that's the word. His sermons was when they were trying to get a pub in Whiteinch. We went berserk against that. This will be the opening, you know, the floodgates will open in Whiteinch, a respectable area, no longer if we allow this to go through and stuff like that, you know. I went home and told my father, and he went, yeah.
Yes.
But that were the times, and he used to drive in Austin, Westminster. Your husband might remember, he'd a big Austin man, my old man used to go on about, that's that bloody collection, that's what he's going to pay for his Austin, Westminster.
Because my husband learned to drive with a guy called Willie Wiley. And I remember him telling me about it, because we didn't have a car until later on. But I think it was good that he actually told me. And why I came here today for the family history was he knew his mum. He came over for the funeral in 1985, but he didn't say very much. And then when we came over, we tried to find out where she had been cremated, and that was difficult. But here today, I have found out when she actually died, where she died, and now the girl here, Lyndon, she's actually going to get me books to look and see more detail about whether the ashes were scattered or where they were scattered.
That's amazing.
So, and now I'm, because when I saw the Boys Brigade stuff, I thought, oh, imagine that, you know, the pillbox and the, well, they haven't actually got.
Well, you can tell your husband this is going to be going on Alan's website, which is called Pipers'Persuasion, and he'll be, and your husband will be able to sit in Australia and watch this. Alan does this as a hobby.
We're going to start the second half of this conversation. We've had the general conversation about the Boys Brigade in Scotland and abroad. Our good friend Irene just off camera just now, talking about Australia and various other things. Now, I'd like to concentrate on the 214 BBE and the pipe band sense. And if you could just take me back, a personal experience, how did you get introduced to it? And then talk, if you wish, about in a general sense, just about the 214 BB pipe band. If you do about 10 minutes. And, okay.
Well, I got involved with the BB when we moved to Whiteinch in 1960, and just out played football. One of the boys said he had to go and play, he'd go for his lesson. He said, I said, what kind of lesson is that? And he said, bagpipe lesson. I went, you know, what's that all about? So he said, do you want to come? And I said, yeah. And come the next practice, he'd mentioned my name to the tutor, who was Alec Ibell, who actually lived 2 floors below me. And Alec, once your name was mentioned to Alec, he'd never let go, you know, that was you. So the next night, or the next practice night or lesson night, I was out playing football, and I got the call, Mr. Ibell was looking for me, because I'd said I wanted to become a piper or go to the class, and where was I? So Julie went up to Alec's house, and Alec had been widowed, or was a widower, and he dedicated his life really to the BB after his wife died. And he always used to say he was a member of the old Whiteinch band. I don't know of a Whiteinch band in history. It's obviously died out, you know, but I remember seeing a chanter belonging to a guy, John Wallace of Whiteinch. I don't remember where I saw it, but look through archives somewhere. So there must have been a decent piping presence in there, and he'd learned, and he was very, very strict about the way we had to learn the pipes. And he used to go to the church. He was a member of Gordon Park Church, which is just round the corner from us in Haldane Street. And it was a great place to live, because across the road up there was the Whiteinch Baths. A couple of 100 yards in the other direction, to the left, was Victoria Park. Round the corner was the BB. And then, you know, quarter of a mile along the road was the Odeon Pictures, where we could all get in for fourpence. So you stole a bleach bottle and a lemonade bottle out the steamy, got fourpence in Blakely's shop, and that got you into the pictures. So you then open the door, you would open the door, the emergency door for all the other hundreds of kids on a Saturday morning. Chaos. So anyway, that's how we got into the Boys Brigade, and Alec was a real stickler for correct fingering. And it's no coincidence that he turned out so many very good players who all made it into Grade 1 bands. You know, at that time...
You fling in a couple of names.
Well, I mean, Ian McClellan's obviously the stick-out one who became the standout pipe major of all time, really, with Strathclyde Police. And other guys like Hector Russell and Alistair Ross, and people like Jim Hardy, although he was taught by his father, he eventually came to the band. There was a whole host of other really good players, and who all did well in the BB battalion.
Elmsley brothers were there as
Dougie
well.
was Dougie joined at the same time as me. Douglas, he learned along with me. Ronnie learned at the same time as me.
Elmsley, Ronnie
Elmsley, but Dougie, his older brother, who's now no longer with us, unfortunately. Dougie was there too, and so the Elmsley brothers as well.
How about Jim?
Jim, I don't remember Jim being in the 214. John Finlay, who played in Muirheads, was pipe major of the Hoover Band and the McRae, played the McRae and Shots. Also some great drummers, of course, as well, because we had a tremendous tradition of music, and it came from Alec Ibel. He gave you the foundation.
So Alec Connell
Connell was a leading drummer with the 214.
And Sterling McMurtry.
Sterling was there, Robert Turner.
Uh-huh.
Robert just left as I was joining, about 63.
Yeah.
My first year, 62 I think it was his last year.
Who taught the drummers cause?
It's in the archives somewhere, I can't remember. Was it Willie Patterson?
I know Willie.
I think
he went to the Rolls Royce.
I think that's who it was anyway. But he had first class tuition.
He was a world champion drummer in his day.
I think it was him, but Joe Noble was another great drummer playing in the 214.
My goodness.
But a whole host of pipers, and it all was from this foundation of Alec with the Logan's Tutor. Logan's Tutor, and we had one book between about 5 years. We all got a shot with to copy it out into a manuscript book.
Yeah.
And because nobody had any money.
Photocopiers.
Nobody had any money.
No.
Alec would make the cane reads himself, give you an old chanter, didn't cost you anything for the lesson.
Right.
And he went every week, and he would rap you in the knuckles if you were doing things wrong, and quite a hard upbringing in that respect. And then once you had graduated into the BB from the Life Boys, you got into the band, and there we were taught by Dan Finlay, and then eventually by Alec McIver.
Aye.
And Alec's great influence was Donald MacLeod. So we had lots of tunes before they were even in Donald's books.
Was Alec McIver from North Uist?
From Lewis.
Lewis.
Yes.
Right.
They were Lewismen,
Uh-huh.
and as a result, they were very great friends, and they rabbited away in the Lewis Gaelic, you know.
Aye.
And we'd often get down to Granger's shop, and Donald was the nicest man you could wish to meet, you know. And Alec was okay as well. But there was a great school, and they were dedicated to the boys, you know, absolutely dedicated.
But these guys went to the wider scene in piping as well. If it was a Hughes and Barra and all that, these guys could always be seen in the audience and talking away to everybody.
Aye.
It didn't just confine themselves to the BB scene sort of thing, you know.
No, that's absolutely right.
Very knowledgeable in piping in general.
That's right. Well, Alec was a composer too, and wrote some nice tunes.
Because I remember playing at the Hughes and Barra one year when I was about 20 or something like that in the old Glasgow High School, and speaking to McIver and foolishly asked him what he thought of my pipes, and he said the drones are far too quiet, you know. And
there you go.
so, and the chanter was too loud and all. But if you asked an opinion, he could give you one very rarely.
He would never really. I mean, I don't think he was a great player himself, Alec, but he did the castle during the war.
Yeah.
And he was up the northwest frontier thereafter, and as Alec Ibel used to say, he kept his head down, and that's how he survived. there's some great photographs on the 214 ex-members website of Alec McIver. But I think people like myself, we don't fully understand, or at the time we certainly didn't realise, how good the teaching was, because you hear kids today, and we both do a lot of teaching, Alan, ourselves, and it's absolutely crucial that you get this basic grounding, accurate fingering. And you hear too often these days kids shoveled into the band, stick a uniform and a set of pipes, and they're not being taught properly. It's all crossing noises and false fingering.
How long were you on the practice chanter?
I was a year on scales before I got a tune.
Jeez,
A year on scales before I got a
can you
tune.
imagine trying that one nowadays?
Well,
attention span just wouldn't be
Well,
there.
that's right, but I managed to stick it, and I used to make up my own.
And then
tunes,
on pipes after how
Well,
long?
you went from there on to Alec had a wee set of miniatures.
Okay.
So we had practice chanter in it, and 3 practice chanter drone reads, practice chanter reads in the drones.
Aye.
So you get you get the idea of the bag. Then from there you went to the half set, and
Okay.
you played the half set. And of course, for like me, I was a height of nothing when I was only 10, 11, so they used to call me Wee Bob. So anyway, I would play this half set, and from there you get onto the big. But we never had our own instruments. But these were all instruments either owned by Alec or owned by the BB.
Owned by the BB,
So
yeah.
I mean, and that was crucial. And
Yeah.
you never paid a penny for a lesson. Never paid a penny for anything. In fact, when Alec first took me to Cowell, he paid for you on the Blue Train, Craig and Doran, and the boat. All I took was a packet of pieces, as we called it, sandwiches.
And of course,
From your mother,
they just wore a BB uniform, didn't they?
We didn't have kilts. We used to parade in just a pair of trousers and a jacket, a suit if you had one,
Yeah.
and a pillbox hat, the white haversack, and the leather belt with the brass buckle, which had to be polished up, and
Build up.
that was that was it really, and
Yeah.
we always. I remember playing at the Highlanders Institute once, and I got upbraided by some old sod because I didn't have a kilt on,
Aye.
And I'm like, Christ, I don't even have a set of pipes, mate. Never mind worrying about a kilt. I was there as playing in one of the junior contests. You just look at these people and you wonder what planet they're on. They don't realise that we're not all from well off, because our family had no money at all.
And you're talking the 50s and 60s
That's
here.
right. And if it
all
hadn't
this,
been for the Boys Brigade, I would never have learned the bagpipe. So when I made a record later on, and I called it Chance Was a Fine Thing, and that was the reason for the title, was because I had only learned the bagpipe purely by chance, by moving to White Inch and happening upon the 214.
Robert, I haven't touched on the competition scene, the juvenile. What was it called at that time? It was just called juvenile
It was the only grade there was.
And it was 3 grades, I understand: 1, 2, and 3, and juvenile.
1, 2, 3 in juvenile. There was no grade 4.
And there's no A's and
novice.
B's or anything
No,
like
none
that.
of that carry on.
And so Cowell could reasonably accommodate 60, 70 bands in total.
That's
And that was when the whole thing was manageable. So, but there was a very, very strong juvenile grade at that time, because it had yourself, First Port Glasgow, and the Knightswood Juveniles.
Excellent bands. There was occasionally you got another, maybe the Hoyt BB. There was other bands sometimes joined.
Yeah.
The grade was very small.
Yeah.
But the standard they played to. I mean, I had a recording of us at the Worlds. I think it was '64, which was my first competition, and we played Stirlingshire Militia, John Roy Stewart, and Dr. McPhail. Now, these are all boys under 18. Some of them only 13 and 14, and this is what we were competing with. But this is why the standard was so very high, and the quality of the fingering had to be there. It wasn't just a matter of going on with a couple of 3/4s and hoping that just wouldn't be good enough,
When I joined the City Glasgow Police Pipe Band in 1965, Angus MacDonald was the pipe major, and he was a big fan of the 214, because they recruited it very heavily into the band from the
214, yes.
the 214.
He was a big pal of Alex Drivers.
And
He was North Uist, Alec.
aye, Angus, but what he told me, Angus MacDonald said to me, I don't need to teach these guys how to play 6/8s, says, because the 6/8s were terrific, as played by the 214. Could you perhaps comment on that?
Well, Alec was a big stickler for music. I mean, he always had this idea that you had to express your tunes, and very, very keen on the pushing your strong beats in your left foot. You know, he had. In fact, sometimes I always thought he overdid that. You know, to the extent of the thing. But when you were playing still and you drum beat the bride dum dum the bride dum bride dum beat the dum dum the bride dum bride dum. Now, that tune can't be played by a lot of your top guys these days, but we were playing that as boys, and all that work had to be in there, and it had to be played, and he got the drummers, he would get the drummers to try and play that as well. So the technical demand was there on you constantly to be good and get the work in, and we never cut any doublings out or anything like that. 6/8s, we played 6/8s a lot because BB marches meant you had to play 6/8s for all these church parades.
Yes.
You know, so we were playing tunes like McNeil Yugadale, all that sort of stuff. But
what sort of tempos were you playing for parades? So you'd need to play them up
a wee bit quicker than that, yeah. But Alec got his music because he was inherently musical himself. But he really got a lot of it from Donald MacLeod. And Donald would, he would listen to Donald playing, and he would come back to the hall, and he would say, "I've just been to Lewis and Harris, and Donald MacLeod was playing, and this is the way you've got to play this, dum ba dum bo dee dee up ba dee ho," and Alec would transfer that to the band.
Yeah.
To get the drummers playing the same way, and that was the kind of foundation.
And
for
Donald
really.
would give some of his newest compositions to Alec to play as well.
Yes, he would. And we had the wee Highland Laddie.
Aye.
And what's it go like? Which is off a Gaelic song, I think. But we had that before it was ever in Donald's book, or in the Cockerel and the Creel. Was it going? We had copies of that with the wee legend, the wee story. In fact, I did a story about it on Pipe and Press, I think.
Yeah.
So we had that before it was ever published, but just all because of Alec's association with the
Donald.
wee man. Yeah.
Aye, that's terrific. Now, have you got any idea of the competing record or anything like that?
Well, I remember we always used to talk about getting second in the Rothsay in grade 2, or winning grade 2 in Rothsay, and playing up sometimes. I think you could play up at majors in these days. We won grade 3 and stuff like that. We often played against the adult bands and won. It's a wee bit similar to today.
Yeah.
The juvenile grade today have a very, very high standard with Dollar and some of these other bands, George Watson's, and they're terrific bands,
Absolutely fantastic.
And they can win grade 3s probably.
Yeah. I know bother. I listened to them at Dumbarton this year, as the audience will be fed up listening to me on about it, but that was the first time ever, and I was really very, very impressed with the juvenile grade, and I said, well, they could go and take on the grade 2 boys anytime.
Probably, I think one of the best developments recently is the insistence by the RSPB that the bands learn things like dots and tails, George V's Army. They've got these map tunes which were more traditional music, because we were getting far too into the horn marches thing. The straight even quaver stuff, which is very easy to play, good for unison, but no good for pipers. No good for training pipers, and at that young age they really have to be taught.
You need to play music. To branch off a wee second, back onto tuition by Alec Ibell and the rest of them, how did they teach you about blowing the instrument?
They taught you that when you blew up the pipes, you must keep this arm rigid.
Now there's a fantastic point.
You keep that arm does not move. The pressure of that arm's solid, and when you blow into the bag, you blow that arm off the bag. And of course, with it being rigid, when you're taking a breath, the pressure's never going to move. I mean, I had a pupil last week at the school in Germany. A fella, he had been taught, or had been told, that when you blow in, you must release the arm. And he's wondering why. And I said, what the? He's wondering why he's getting dizzy, and he can't. And he can't go. He couldn't play for. I said, no, see that arm. Keep. See, by the end of the week, That guy was playing for about 20 minutes without stopping. In fact, could he get me stopped one night at the Cayley? But you know, just that simple thing made all the difference, you know.
And what about the seasoning and the sheepskin
I'll tell you one
bags,
thing.
cane reeds? Did they teach you anything about
I'll tell you one
that?
thing about Alec. I felt he was very, very serious about hygiene. See, cleaning blow sticks, bags, he would wash out the bag with a mixture of Dettol, let it dry, then he would season it with the old Robertson's seasoning, airtight, you know. So obviously it's all sheepskin in these days, you know. Some of us had hide, but they didn't have money. You had to put up with the bag. You had to keep the bag longer than you probably should have, you know. So we were never really shown much in terms of maintenance. I would say that was one thing. They just didn't have time to teach you about that stuff and about tuning. Your drones were tuned for you, you know. All that was done for you because you're just a boy. You didn't really know. I only started learning about that later when I left the band, when I had to look after myself and do more stuff for myself. So, but it was all cane reeds and sheepskin bags, and you know, I played a set of old McRae drones with the spring slides. You know, the spring, no hemp.
I know that.
It was a spring.
It's almost, you looked at it, it was a split in the...
Yes, it was split, and I don't know how good that was for the internal bore of the drone. It must have rubbed it away eventually, but that's what I played in when I was in the 214. I had to hand them back when I left the band. And then my mother gave me £17 to buy a set out of Henderson shop.
Was it a mixture of chanters, pipe chanters?
We used to get the old Glasgow police chanters.
I thought I was going to say that.
We would
to
get
you,
the cast-offs.
Because I remember every time we changed chanters, they went to the
214. We used to get your old drums as well, you know.
Of course, at that time, you weren't getting chanters that were all carved out.
No, I think it was Sinclair's the police played.
They played, I'll tell you what they played. In 65, they played ones made by Granger and Campbell, Granger chanters, and we had these for 2 years, 65 to 66, and then we moved on to Hardy's, and Ronnie Laurie took over the band, and he used to take all the chanters from us when we come off the field. With numbered chanters, and the soles I had number 16 because I was the last guy in. And 16 pipers, and I've still got that sole, yes, ivory soles incidentally, and the Hardy chanter, thick ivory soles, and it was teeped in, it was engraved in, and so 2 chanters from us, took them away home, worked on the chanter reeds and individual chanters, and the next practice you got the chanter man.
There you go.
You know? And that was the height of the season sort of thing. So we had fantastic tone at that time, but again, Muirhead's had a better tone.
At that time.
Well, it should have had because we were playing his chanters.
But we were never given difficult reeds to blow.
Did you ever?
Never given, it was always easy.
Did you recruit from 214 BB in the Muirheads?
Yes, well, I went there, and of course Jim Hardy went, because Bob used to come down with Jimmy, so we went. Dougie Elmsley went there, Gordon Ferguson. So I mentioned Gordon, who's now out in Australia, Irene up in Queensland. Gordon Ferguson, who your husband might remember, because Gordon would be about the same age as myself. About the same age as your husband, you know. So Gordon was a great player and does a lot of teaching now out in Queensland. So he was recruited into Muirheads along with Dougie. He was a big pal of Dougie's. Robert Turner, the leading drummer, he became leading drummer with Muirheads and played through their 5 in a row.
So would it be true to say that Angus MacDonald didn't have a clear run at the 214 pipe band at
No.
Well, all the pipe majors were vying for attention and
Well, I remember
stuff like that.
I remember Alec MacGyver saying the pipe majors for the grade one were always down at him. Any good boys, Alec? Any good boys? They're always looking for, boys that hitting 17.
That's fantastic,
though,
isn't it?
Yes,
it says a lot for them.
Well, the Red Hackle, the Clan McRae, Renfrew, the Glasgow Police, and Muirhead's bands all benefited greatly, I think, from the academy that the 214 Boys Brigade was.
Okay, to round off this conversation, Robert, because it's getting dark or something out there. Could we just closing thoughts about the 214 BB
Yes.
pipe band?
Well, the band, you know, if without it I would never have played the pipes, that's the first thing to say. But the BB company was important too, because it gave all the boys in the area somewhere to go at a time where there wasn't a lot of money around. Most of us lived in the local tenement flats. A lot of them didn't even have inside toilets, running hot water. You know what I mean? That sounds like the old get the fiddle out and, you know, back in my day and all this kind of stuff, but it was true. And the BB just gave us somewhere to go on a Friday night. If you were in the band, you'd band practice on a Tuesday. At the competitions, we also practiced on a Friday as well, after the company. And on Sunday we had Bible class. Then Saturday you had the football team. So it was a whole social learning thing.
Whole way of life, really.
Outside of school, you
Yeah.
know, you went to school and that, but the whole way of life. So it was really something that we got benefit of, and we know now when we're all a bit older how good it was for us. Musically, the band gave me an outlet, obviously, because my father was a musician, but did nothing to teach me, you know, pass on any of his musical abilities to myself. But maybe I had a wee bit something inside me that Alec Ibell found, and Alec McIver after him developed. And it obviously was a life-changing move for me, moving to White Inch and joining the 214 BB. So I have everything to thank the company for, and the BB.
Thanks very much for this discussion, Robert, and your time. And can I just tell the viewers to go to another episode of Pipers'Persuasion, where you can see a full interview with Robert Wallace here, and you'll learn the rest of his piping career from that. But thanks very much for the benefit of your knowledge and experience on
Pleasure.
touching on the early experience of your life and the 214 BB pipe band. So we'll just call it a day at that. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.